Good morning, guys. This is going to serve as your marketing lecture and the second one, and this is specifically about marketing research. And we have two main objectives today. We're going to understand the 7 steps of product development and identify why understanding competition is so important for a business. So, jumping right into this, the 7 steps of product development. And really, this all starts with someone coming up with an idea, and there are a bunch of ways to do this. When we talked about it and did it at the very beginning of the school, we did brainstorming and kind of put you guys through some brainstorming exercises. You kind of figured out things you liked, you didn't like, and what you would be interested in working on. And you came up with some ideas, hopefully more than one, and we kind of all eventually settled on what we were going to do. In marketing and in product development, sometimes marketing companies and staff will actually go and take research in order to take their problem or in order to solve a problem, because most businesses that are successful are actually solving a problem. Netflix solves the problem of bringing content directly into our homes without needing a disc, a CD, or a DVD. And furniture companies solve the problem of us being comfortable in our homes, and it just goes on and on and on. Companies solve problems for people. So the second step was you guys had a bunch of ideas, and you said this is good or this is bad or this is what I'm interested in, and you screened them. You went through some kind of evaluation process in your head, and for a lot of you that was really easy. If it was an idea or a product that you had no interest in, why try and do a product? Why try and do something about it, or why try and write a paper about it? In the business world, this really comes down to what is going to make the company the most money. That's where the focus lies, as opposed to what we like or dislike. So, if I move too quick, pause. Tell me to pause at any point in time. But we're on to step 3, and here's where we develop a business plan. And this is what you guys did through most of the second semester. Whether you believe it or not, and some of you guys did varying levels of decency at it, but for most of you, they were pretty good, and you kind of worked your work into a plan that a business could potentially follow in order to create a company and create a product or a service. Uh, some of you randomly decided to change those plans at the last minute, but you still kind of worked through it, and there were a lot of great ideas that came out of this year's business plans. So, and this business plan is obviously going to be written down. It's going to follow a similar pattern that you guys did. It might have some additional detail, as people that are creating products oftentimes involve engineers, and the engineering plans are part of that business plan. And it just goes into the various sections that we created with our written proposals. And it includes all things like anything dollar associated. How much is it going to cost to produce this? Where we think we can sell it? All of those items. That's step 3. Step 4 is we actually start developing the product. We're actually going to see if we can make this happen. You see this a lot with cars. Cars go through a product development cycle of years. And what I'm getting at is the latest brand new car, the 2021 Chevy Silverado 1500, was in a design process for multiple years, as they figured out everything from the way it was going to look, the way they were going to get the products they wanted in it, and then if there was anything that needed, like if they need to change up the tooling or the machines that they have in the production line, that has to go into the process as well. One model has to be wound down and changes need to be made, and then the new model gets started up. So this prototype that we see is a very common process with just about everything. It's really common with cars in particular. And when you go to a car show, you hear about a car show, you see a lot of actual prototypes of what may or may not be coming out, where companies are trying to push the edge of design and style and what the vehicle can do. And then they'll kind of tailor back the production of the vehicle so that it can be streamlined and made efficiently at a price where we can all afford it. So a prototype, and expect this word on a test, is that initial model, that initial design that a company tests and creates to see if what they want to create is actually feasible. So, and during this phase, you're testing it primarily internally and not externally. So, internally being people within the company to see if, like I said, this is something that is feasible. So, step 5, you're going to test market the product. So, once you've gone through a prototype and you've done probably multiple variations of that prototype, getting it better every time, you're going to start testing the market. You're going to offer it in limited quantities in controlled areas. And you're going to see if you can get some customer responses to see if the product is likely to be successful. This is done with everything from products to movies. Movies are usually screened by test groups and focus groups to see if there are things that are good or things that are just completely offensive, and whether or not things need to be changed. So the testing, and depending on how long testing takes, can give competitors an opportunity to produce a similar product and compete in the same way. So we're getting to the end here. Step 6 is we're going to introduce that product, and we're going to see once it's passed the market test and we've tested in an area, we're going to just start rolling it out, and we'll roll it out in probably a controlled manner, start adding stores and geographies, and as our product sells and we're able to continue making it, we're going to just continue rolling it out through the product and keep it in that growth phase of the product life cycle. And then our very last step is we're going to evaluate what customers think about it. And we're going to understand who the best customer is. So we have identified who we think the target market is. We'll start modifying that to be more and more accurate so that we do actually know who it is. And then we're going to figure out what new products are they buying, and how often are customers actually buying our product. That is the 7 steps of the product cycle. And to kind of tie into this, I'm hoping this works. Or I guess I can.
I'm Bhavna Mutangi. I'm a senior product manager and I make about $160,000 a year. So my role as a product manager is basically to collect requirements from customers, from salespeople, come up with features by looking at the feedback that customers are giving me, as well as looking at the general market trends, looking at what competitors are doing. And I gather all that data, I come up with new features that we should be adding into our product, and I take that to engineering and I work with them in order to break those requirements down into technical tasks. In a typical day, I'll probably start off with meeting with my engineering team and just looking at the status of our current projects and looking ahead to the next few weeks to see what they'll be working on. Then during the day, I might have a call with a salesperson in order to discuss like what kind of concerns customers are bringing up. I might have a presentation where I show our product directly to customers. And I might also be talking to senior managers in order to get budgets for future projects. So a big part of my job is also getting the resources we need in order to build things. So I need to justify anything that the engineers are working on in order to make sure the project proceeds. So I will build a presentation based on feedback that I've gotten from customers and sales, based on market research and what competitors are doing. And I use that to justify what the engineer's time is being spent on to senior management. When I first came out of college, I was in an entry-level marketing role, so in tech, same industry, and I was making about $80,000 a year. Then I went to business school and I went into product management, and then I was making $115,000 when I first came out of business school. And over time, as I got more and more responsibility, I was able to get raises. At this point, I think I would need to get a promotion in order to get a raise because I'm pretty much at the higher end of my salary range. Well, I think the biggest thing with as a product manager that you need to be able to do is communicate with a variety of different people. So you are working with sales, you're talking to customers, you're talking to engineering, and sometimes you're even talking to finance and legal. It's important to be able to communicate effectively with all of those groups. Another important skill is just PowerPoint, because that's a lot of the time that's basically how you're communicating your ideas, especially to senior management, in order to get budget and buy-in for your projects. So the two big skills are just communication and presentations. In order to do this job well, you need to be able to understand the point of view of a lot of different people. So you need to be able to understand what sales wants in order to be able to sell to customers. You need to be able to understand how a customer will use a feature and how badly they want it or need it. You need to be able to understand all of the different stakeholders in your company: sales, engineering, finance, legal, your senior managers and execs. And you need to have relationships with all those people and be able to persuade them to your ideas. I would say like it would, for some product management roles, you do need to get very deeply technical, and in that case like a computer science degree it's very useful. And in fact, some companies like Google, they have their product managers do technical interviews as well. My worst days are if I've been working on a project for a long time and I've gotten a lot of I've gotten approval from all of the required parties, and then suddenly there's a management change at the top, and then the strategy changes of the company, and then that project is scrapped. So I think that's frustrating, because you've already gotten all this buy-in, you've moved ahead, you've become very committed to this project, and then you don't get to go anywhere with it. I would say like the best days are really when a product that you have come up with is launched. That's the best, especially if there's like a press release associated with it. That's a lot of fun.
All right. So I haven't done a lot of that and think I should do some more, but just that is just someone, and that's their job as a senior product manager, and just a little bit about them. And we'll explore some jobs here and there as we go through kind of like the last third, I guess, of school. Can't believe we're already almost there. All right, so second objective here is going to be talking about competition. Competition gives you a great advantage to know your target market. One of the most important points in your plan, and should always be included. You can find out if they're happy with the product but not the price, etc. There is a couple of different types of competition. You have direct competition, and that's a business that makes its money or its profit selling the same product as you. And then you have indirect competition, and that's a business that only makes a small amount of money selling a similar product or service to the same market. And I got an example of this in a minute. And then large retailers. Many smaller businesses have a hard time surviving competition with a larger retailer who has lower prices and more product. And a lot of times those larger retailers usually have the ability to buy in bulk and get better pricing. The thing to keep in mind for a small retailer is that you need to use your size as your advantage. Smaller retailers can do things like adapt and change very quickly. They just have to change one store, whereas changing Walmart or changing a perception of Walmart is going to take years, if not decades. How long has everyone thought of Walmart as a relatively cheap place to go where people are, for the most part, not that happy? That's just, the perception that it's had for a long time. So 3 types of competition. Make sure you have that down, and if you need me to stop, let me know. We talked about this a little ways back. This is a competitive matrix, and we all made them for our businesses. A lot of you guys included them in your business plan. They are just a good way to compare and contrast competition in an industry or for a company. So I just wanted to bring that back up. So let's think about this. Who is Target's competition? This is a great spot. Let's pause the video, have that quick discussion. You guys can say who competes directly with them and who competes indirectly. All right. I hope that was a good conversation. Hopefully, someone said a couple of these for direct competition, as in selling a lot of the comparable items, or the money compared between those two competitors is the same. And then maybe for indirect competition, it looks something like that. Kohl's and Target. If you don't know Fred Meyer, Fred Meyer is the Walmart of. It's actually owned by the Kroger company, but it is on the West Coast, Washington, Oregon, and they have Walmart-sized stores with just about everything in them, but they are clean and beautiful. And being honest, when I say they are just gorgeous, beautiful stores to walk around in. So coming to the end here, competitive analysis is identifying and examining characteristics of a competing firm, and you really are you're really creating the competitive matrix in what this competitive analysis is saying. You're going to list your strengths and weaknesses and find strategies and objectives of your competitor and see if there are any opportunities in the marketplace and or threats coming from your competition. So all of what we pretty much do in a competitive matrix is competitive analysis. This is putting a lot of formality to kind of just that basic process. I'll leave this up for a couple more seconds and we'll keep on rolling. All right. So the reason to really do market research and get to know your customer is to get customer loyalty. And I like the example of a supermarket in the sense that we all tend to go back to the same supermarket. We don't kind of bounce around. If we have a bunch of options, we don't in Brownsburg, but if you live in a town that has multiple supermarkets, you still tend to go to the same one. That's where you find the things you need and you can kind of wrap up your shopping all in one trip. That kind of convenience factor is just really nice, and people tend to like it. And for a company to have someone or a family come in and spend $100 or $200 every week or every other week, whatever it is just that's the recipe for success. So, and what it formally says for customer loyalty is getting buyers to choose your product or service over the competition, and that's one step in running a successful business. Once you gain customers, you must remain loyal to them and encourage them to come back. So, and here are some of those steps for having the business listen, right? Always have great service, convenient hours, easy return policies, and then it gives all types of recommendations, frequent buyer programs, personal notes, thank you letters, so on and so forth. A lot of things we see our major businesses do. Listen and respond to feedback. That's part of market research too, is that just always be ready to listen and respond and understand feedback. So we're excited. It's where all this came from. And another example of a competitive matrix and a customer profile. But that's really it for this section. That kind of wraps up our marketing research. We still got some work to do in this section, and then we'll be taking a quiz and a test, and we'll be on to advertising in a couple weeks, I bet. And we are quickly approaching the fourth quarter, which will be a lot of fun. All right, guys, that's it for me, and I will talk to you guys soon. Have a good one.